Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees, even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlote Laws, and today we're going to be discussing a lesbian lawsuit, rising food prices, illegal immigration, and a woman who is suing 7 casinos because they failed to stop her compulsive gambling. But first, I would like to introduce my esteemed panelists. We have Ralph Cissne, who is a well-respected writer and a creative strategist. And we have Garret Swayne, who is a talented singer-songwriter. And welcome to the show. And the first topic is something that I think will probably interest both of you single guys, which is the topic of lesbians. And recently on the island of Lesbos, which is in Greece, you know, right off the coast of Greece, there are some people that are suing a gay lesbian organization in Greece for using the word lesbian, because people on Lesbos go by the word lesbian, as that's what they're called, like Americans, lesbians, that kind of thing. And so they find it embarrassing, they find it humiliating that the word lesbian has become known for what it is known internationally, and they want to stop it.
They need some gay pride over there.
They do.
What would they like the homosexual women to be called?
They didn't say. They didn't say, but they would like the heads of this particular gay lesbian organization to actually go to prison if once it's found in court that people on the island of Lesbos are right. They want them to be in prison, and they want them to pay a fine within 10 days of the ruling by the court.
I'm just curious whether the citizens, the good citizens of Lesbos, acknowledge that there are any amongst them who may, in fact, of their women who may in fact be lesbians. So these are lesbians.
They're lesbians. That's very good. I like that. I like that. You're probably right.
It's a double L thing.
How many people live on Lesbos?
You know, I don't know the answer to that.
Charlotte, you should be coming here more prepared.
I know I should, but I do know that it kind of brings up a discrimination angle, because apparently in the European Union, the average people, you know, if you look at the average number of people who, percentage-wise, who support same-sex marriage, it's something like 44%. But in the Greek area, it's actually much lower. It's 16%. So they already kind of have this reputation in that part of the world for being a little bit closed-minded about homosexuality. And so this kind of brings that to the fore a little bit.
They've come a long way since the Hellenistic period.
That's true.
No, I think, like, according to Greek mythology, the women of Lesbos loved each other. Is that?
Yeah, there is. That's right.
Why did the name? I know Lesbos has connected with lesbianism.
Yeah, the goddess Sappho, I believe, was born in Lesbos, and her idea was womanly love, and so that's where it all originated, was from that, from this Greek goddess.
They should call them Saphians instead of. Is there an island called Sapphos?
I have no idea.
See, that would get rid of the problem.
But I did have an experience that's related to this. Actually, when I was a child, I went to camp, you know, like children go to camp. And the camp I went to was called Gay Valley. And of course, in the olden days, gay was, you know, happy-go-lucky, etc.
I think it still is.
And after I'd been going for a couple of years, they changed it to Gwynn Valley. And I remember asking my mom, so naively, you know, why'd they change the name of the camp? So, you know, as a child, I didn't understand that at the time. So that was a similar situation. The next topic has to do with illegal immigration, and there are a group of people that call themselves techno-patriots. And what they do is they have hidden cameras at various locations along the border, and these are thermal imaging cameras that can detect like 100 miles, and they can pick up, you know, if they're illegal.
Lesbians.
Lesbians.
A lesbian crossing on the Arizona border.
And what you do is, if you want to join this group, for $10, you join on the internet, and then you can monitor. You can say, yeah, I want to do it from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., and you can monitor the cameras for the organization, and you pick a time slot. And then if you see somebody, you call the Border Patrol, and there have been 48 arrests because of sightings at this particular particular group has had. Out of there have been 56 sightings, but 48 arrests. So, you know, it's just kind of a new, you know, like if the police and the immigration authorities aren't going to do their job, then regular people are kind of getting in there.
So
to try
they
to do
call
their
the
job.
immigration authorities who know that there are all these crossings happening anyway.
Right.
And they say, we have word that there's a crossing happening. Do they actually do anything about it?
Yeah, they said that they do. They said the Border Patrol is actually very good, and they do show up, and they absolutely do their job. I mean, I think it may, you know, right now that it's, I don't think
So
it's...
is that the only problem? We don't have enough people asking the Border Patrol to show up and do their job?
Well, I think there are probably not enough Border Patrol agents for the task. I mean, you've got a huge border there. So we do have, in City of LA, we have Special Order 40. I don't know if you know much about that, but we're a sanctuary city, and there are 25 cities in this country that are, including New York and Chicago and San Francisco. And recently we had a situation where an illegal gang member killed a young black kid who was very, you know,
He's a star athlete.
Star athlete, football
Law?
player.
Yes,
Yeah, Jamil's Law. His name was Jamil Shaw. And so there are people in LA trying to push for Jamil's Law to pass. And the police chief has basically said, like, over my dead body, you're not touching Special Order 40. We're staying a sanctuary city. That's Bratton's take on it, and he wants to definitely keep that status. But Councilmember Dennis Zine, to his credit, has come forward and made kind of a motion that amends Special Order 40 to say that officers can, you know, check to see if a gang member who has maybe committed a crime, you know, what the legal status is, and if they're illegal, they can be turned over to ICE. So that is a motion that's before the City Council.
Well, the irony of all that is, okay, they arrest someone for activity, then they should be able to check for their immigration status. Then they deport them, and then they come right back. This is where the action is. This is where the money is.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, we...
I mean,
somehow deportation doesn't seem like that terrible of a
no, I don't think so
punishment.
Either.
You should imprison them.
That's a good punishment. I mean,
it's like
if they commit a crime, they do go to prison, but then they should be deported.
But when they're out of prison...
After they come out, and this particular gang member had been in prison the day before, the one who killed Jamil Shaw. They let him back on the street. They did not deport him.
They did not even
and then
ask,
he just...
yeah, here's the thing. They knew he's a gang member. They knew he's no good. I mean, he's got a whole rap sheet really long.
Right.
And they know they're taking him and they're releasing him on the street. They know they also could bust him or incarcerate him or deport him or get rid of him by further prosecuting him on immigration grounds, but they were not allowed to do that.
Well, that's not true. They are allowed to do that,
but
they didn't do it, and they didn't check to see that this particular guy was
illegal.
Well,
they're not allowed to do it by Special Order 40.
No, but once they're arrested, you can ask. Once you're indicted on a crime, you are allowed to find out if they're illegal.
Really? The way it is
Special Order
currently?
40 means you can't approach and find out in advance. You have to wait till they've committed a crime, they're found guilty, whatever. Then you can deport them after they serve their sentence.
So what Jamil's Law does is it compels policemen to prevent a known criminal from going back on the street. It compels them to turn them into
immigration. It doesn't compel them. It just means that they are allowed to ask in advance if they're a known gang member. That's what it does. It doesn't change anything for anyone except gang members. Yeah, well, but we have a lot of gang violence in Los Angeles.
Oh, do we?
while it's the while thousands of kids are being slaughtered, the politicians are posturing for who's the most politically correct, and it's...
And votes, we got a higher and higher population here that supports illegal immigration, or not cracking down on...
Not murder.
No, I understand, but I agree with you. It has to be something along the lines of either votes or political correctness, because otherwise, why wouldn't the politicians take a stand?
Perhaps the next mayoral election, that we'll have a sea change in the city, and people will just be fed up with it. Because it's not right that these kids are getting slaughtered every day and they can't go out of their homes after dark.
Yeah, Jamil Shaw was standing in his front yard.
I've heard of him.
And he got
Walter
shot down.
Moore is the guy to vote for mayor next time around.
I've heard him speak, and you know what? He sounds rational.
He's a rational guy, and he's not corrupt, which is pretty sea change.
But another story about a regular person taking action, and this takes place in Australia, and apparently there's a lot of crime also in Australia, and this was in Canberra, and it was a dry cleaner.
Well, you know, they were originally founded as a penal colony.
I know they were. That's
so it
true.
doesn't surprise me. It's their genes, those Australians. Right.
But anyway, some man came in and stole a $5, tried to steal a pair of pants that cost $5.50, so the dry cleaner steam cleaned him. And apparently he had done this on many occasions, like, you know, burned the guy, essentially. And the police said, that's all right, let him do it, because I guess the police are so overwhelmed, they're like, they're certainly not going to prosecute someone for
vigilante dry cleaner justice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I don't know if you heard about the story, and this was like 5 months ago in Pasadena, Texas, which is a similar type of thing with the guy that his neighbor's house was being robbed,
yes,
or burglarized. And in Texas, they now have something called the castle doctrine, which means you can use deadly force to protect your property, essentially. And so he actually shot these two people who were robbing his neighbor's house. So now he's up, you know, for trial on that. And the question is,
I thought he was allowed to, though.
Well, he is, but the question, that's what the law says, but it was his neighbor's house and not his house, and there's lots of questions about, you know, he didn't really have to do it, and he was on phone with, you know,
he called 911, and he said, I'm going to shoot him. He said, no, don't go outside, don't go outside. Next thing, boom, boom.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, I think a jury wouldn't indict the guy.
Most police officers will tell you that the average criminal that does a break and enter is not very smart. They know how to pry open a window or a sliding glass door and get in your house, but they're not very bright. So the idea that, you know, someone points a gun at them and they're going to stop, no, you know, they're going to do what most people would do. The instinct would be to run, and then they're going to get killed. So,
I don't know. You know something. I'm kind of on the fence about this. I think if somebody breaks into somebody's house and that person reacts, they deserve whatever's coming to them.
Oh, I agree with that. I'm just saying that, believe me, if someone breaks in your house, it's not because they want to discuss the theory of relativity.
Right. The question is whether you get to execute them for breaking and entering. And I'm thinking, if we don't start executing some of them for breaking and entering, everybody's going to be breaking and entering at a certain point. So I mean, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm willing to sort of I don't want to throw the book at somebody who shoots an intruder in their home.
Yeah, I don't think a jury would be likely to convict on something like that. Certainly not in Texas.
Well,
that's true.
they shouldn't anywhere, because I mean, you know, your home is your castle.
Well, the next topic has to do with compulsive gambling, and this woman, who's an attorney, actually, or was an attorney, she got addicted to gambling, and she's now suing 7 casinos, 6 in Atlantic City, 1 in Las Vegas, for her compulsive gambling, because she says they should have known that she was a compulsive gambler, and they should have stopped her.
How should they have known that?
I have no idea. This is the lawsuit, and she's lost her house, her job, her family.
And now her mind, apparently.
And obviously her mind.
Because
well, the casinos know, because if you, I mean, I frequent those places.
Are you a gambler?
You sign up. I got wiped out at Commerce Casino just 2 days ago.
Oh, really?
So yeah, not for much, but you know, it was painful nonetheless. They give you a card, and particularly if you're playing slot machines, or if you're.
You have to use a card. You can't.
No, you use a card because you get points. You get free hotel nights. They'll even fly you in.
If you lose enough money, they'll comp you.
No, it's called a players club. They have different names for them. But if you sit down at a table, they swipe your card, and they know that, you know, if you spend so much time gambling, they get perks, free meals, extended hotel stays, and so forth. So they can track that on their people who are frequent visitors.
Well, 6 to 9 million Americans have a gambling problem. Perhaps, no, I don't think you're one of them.
You know, I don't have a problem, but you know what? I like it. It's fun. It's competitive. I've been playing poker since I was 7 years old. Now it's like, you know, everybody's doing it. But it's not the casino's fault. I mean, you know, she can say all she wants, but you know, she can't control her compulsion, and there are a lot of people who can't.
How do you put this? How did you put this, Ralph? Another signpost on the way to.
Another signpost on the road to oblivion.
Of our society.
Well, I mean, it's another frivolous
the biggest problem we're facing in society is people who don't take responsibility for themselves.
No, I agree. That's the problem. That's the biggest problem in our society, or one of them right now.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, the next topic is actually a very serious topic and very upsetting. And there's a Costa Rican artist. His name is Guillermo Vargas, who got a dog off the street, and he tied this dog to up for his art exhibit, and did not feed the dog, starved the dog to death, and put dog food near the dog so the dog could smell it, but would not feed the dog until the dog died. And of course, he says, "Oh, why are you blaming me? You're a hypocrite. People were coming in the gallery, they're looking at the dog, nobody did anything, don't blame me." The Costa Rican government, or the Art Association, whatever, is honoring him and wants him to repeat the whole thing again. I mean, this whole abuse of animals in art is actually, there are a lot of different situations. That's really egregious and really, really horrible. There's the San Francisco Art Institute recently was going to do an exhibit on, somebody came in and wanted to do a video of a whole bunch of different animals being bludgeoned to death, like 6 different animals. And the artist said, "Well, I'm not the one who bludgeoned them. All I did is take the film of it, etc." And it was a horse and an ox and a doe.
What respectable art organization? I'm sorry.
I agree.
What's the respectable art organization who is sponsoring this as art? Who is it?
Well, I mean, these are different ones. This is San Francisco. They actually canceled it because there were so many protests by animal activists.
Yeah, but why would they even consider
I
it?
know, especially even San Francisco, you would think they would be a little more enlightened.
You know, I'm all for art pushing the envelope as far as nudity and whatever they're doing, but there's a line that you don't cross.
Suffering is not art.
No, there's a line that you do not cross. And
Suffering
I think
is not art.
Throughout history, societies have been judged by, you know, how they treat their animals and the people who can't defend for themselves.
Right.
And that's just shameful. There's no excuse for it.
Yeah, most of the time it's like, you know, nothing happens. There is a case recently in Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, an art student. I went to school at University of Florida for 2 years, and this art student dropped 40 live mice into resin until they were like hard, and then he cut them up for an art project. But he actually was arrested, surprisingly, because usually they don't do anything, and he is looking at 5 years in prison and fines. His attorney says, "Oh, well, it's freedom of expression, and you know, it's an art project, and he should not be, you know, in trouble for that."
No,
art should not involve forcing sentient beings to suffer.
Right, I agree. I agree. I totally agree. So,
you got anything that we can disagree about?
No, we need more topics that we disagree on. Well, this is an environmentalism issue that came up in Northern California. It's like only in California this would happen. And you have 2 families that live right next door to each other. And the first one drives a Prius. They plant these redwoods in their yard. And then the next door neighbor has an electric car. I mean, they're all, you know, everybody's very environmentally conscious. And they put up solar panels. And what happens as the redwoods get bigger after 5 years, they start to block the solar panels. And there's a law that was put in force in 1978 in that area that said that you can't block more than 10% of your neighbor's solar panels. So now there's a dispute, and the solar panel guy sues the tree people, the next door neighbors with the trees, and wins, and they end up, the tree people end up spending like $37,000 on attorney fees and this and that, and they have to
cut their trees down?
They had to cut, yeah, exactly, that's what happened, and now they're trying to put in place some sort of legislation saying that if the trees are there first, the trees get to stay, which I agree with. I'm on the trees side personally.
Well, if the trees preceded the solar panels, but the whole purpose of the solar panels is to save the trees, so to speak.
I know, that's why it's a...
Yeah. My neighbor was saying the other day that she was in a meeting and a guy pulled up in a Hummer, and this is right here in Los Angeles, and she wasn't going to say anything, and then she said, "How can you drive that car? That is just, you know, borderline immoral." And he said, "Well, you know, you tell me about it. My car got egged last night." So there's just like growing backlash that, you know, you need to do what you can, and driving a car that gets, you know, 12 miles a gallon isn't one of them. But I salute the guy for having the solar panels, and his neighbor should just make some redwood furniture.
I think the guy in the Hummer should have solar panels on his Hummer, and, you know, don't you think?
Well, you know, as a vegetarian, you know, you do, and the next topic has to do with the food prices, but as a vegetarian, you know, that's the best way you can help with the global warming problem and to help the environment is to be a vegetarian. And so if you drive a Hummer and you're a vegetarian, you're actually doing a lot more for the world than if you eat meat and you drive the most energy efficient vehicle on the earth.
Right, but you can also like totally annihilate that equation by having being a vegetarian and driving a plug-in hybrid. So.
That would even be better. You're right. You're absolutely right. So we have like problems with food prices going up. We have rice hoarding. The rice prices have gone up to $400 a ton to $1,000 a ton just in a few weeks. You have over 100%, or you have the wheat prices have gone up 130% in the last year. So you have, and the reason is because fuel is costing more. The weather has been bad. You have small producers in developing countries don't have the money to really continue to grow because of the rising prices. They don't have the money for fertilizer and et cetera to be able to grow as many crops. And so you have a real problem that's coming to the fore, and with all the people in the world and more people eating meat, which is a huge problem, especially with countries like China that want to be just like America, and they have so many people. And so we have a situation now. The rice hoarding, Costco and Sam's Club put limits on how much rice you could buy, and there really isn't a rice problem in this country is what I understand, but the fear could create a rice problem because then certain communities, especially I guess the Asian communities, kind of started freaking out and buying a lot of rice and hoarding the rice because back in their homeland there are problems. And
in India, but this is a problem that's only going to get worse because fuel prices are going to continue to escalate. Populations are going to continue to increase, and if we convert more cropland to, the boondoggle of corn for ethanol, then we're going to have higher grain prices. That's just I'd like to know like who's watching the ball. I mean, it's like this has been discussed since 30 years ago when I was in college. Most people don't even know there's a ball. That's what I think. I mean, most of the politicians don't know. I mean, there's supposed to be 9 billion people by the year 2050 in this world. Really? And there are 37 countries right now that have a food crisis.
I bet you we get there sooner than that.
Maybe. I don't know. That's what I've read.
No, I only had one child, so.
Yeah.
I only had one child too.
There you go.
Well, I haven't had any.
So you're ahead of the
curve. You know what? We've
curve.
really done our part.
Well, I'm still, yeah. Okay.
But I was talking earlier about meat consumption, and that amounts to 18% of the greenhouse gases comes from meat consumption. And so they say that, that's more than all forms of transportation combined. Just eating meat is that much of a problem. Going vegan for a year saves 1.5 tons of greenhouse emissions. So,
and your complexion is so much better.
I know, it is, isn't it? Of course, I've been vegetarian for over 20 years, 25 years.
And glowing for all of it, I'm sure.
I've only been glowing for 25 years. Before that, it was a mess. Pimples everywhere.
She was radioactive.
But the one thing that people have stopped spending money, not just, they're curtailing with food and going out to eat right now because of the whole economy, not, not just with food, but, clothing. The only thing that people are still spending money on, they say, is electronics. For some reason, big screen TVs and computers.
They've really come down in price, and next next February everything's digital. So people want to have big.
Everything is digital next February.
Mm-hmm. In February.
Yeah. I didn't know
analog
that.
is over. You have
there will be no. You will after February. You will speak in ones and zeros.
High definition.
So what do you do with all your analog stuff that you?
You'll have a converter for your TV sets if you have cable though. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
It's true, I do have it. There's something called hypermiling. I don't know if you've ever heard of that for people are doing to try to save gas now. I'd never heard of this until yesterday. It's a certain way of driving.
Oh, you drive in the backdraft of a
Yeah, you try to stay like behind a big truck so that, of course, if you crash, you're going to die.
You pull their backdraft kind of.
Exactly, and you glide downhill.
I've heard about some guy.
Accelerate very slowly.
Professional driver on closed course. Don't try this at home.
No. There was this guy who he just took it upon. It was a spleen. He just took it upon himself he's going to do everything he can to absolutely maximize his fuel economy. So he's took to find air pockets. He'd drive in the backdraft of big trucks or do other kinds of things. He would anticipate the light being green up there, so he'd take his foot off the accelerator, try to, try to not break it all, just slow down until the light turns green. So,
My husband actually, when he was young, he said that because he's from England, and he said that he had somebody gave him a, they made him a bet that he couldn't drive like 100 miles across England or something without stopping. And he actually did it. It's what he said. He said
100 miles?
I mean, it was a long way. I don't know how long it was, but I'm just making that number up. But it was maybe England's not even 100 miles wide. I don't know.
It is.
But it was a very long distance, and it was really shocking that he could have driven so far without ever stopping at all.
For gas, you mean?
Yeah, he didn't stop for gas either. He obviously had a full tank when he started, so he went as far as he could, but anyway. The last topic we have today is pharmaceuticals in water. And
pharmaceuticals?
Yes, so it's also kind of an environmental issue. And
water.
The White House, there's a task force that's in place apparently to check for drugs in water, because there's drugs in the water, the tap water of, like 24, I think it's 24 major cities across this country. 41 million people are affected by this water. Yeah. And so they got this report. It's like 10 inches thick, but now they're not allowed to release it. The White House will not let them release the findings. And apparently various municipalities do water tests and find this kind of thing, but they normally don't even release it to the public. So it's a bit of a worrisome thing to think that you're getting drugs that you don't intend to be taken.
The reason being is because they're treating the sewage, wastewater, and processing back in and putting it back into your water supply, but they're not removing the trace elements of these drugs.
Right.
So we're dosing on that.
Right.
Which may explain why my erections won't seem to go down now, because I'm just dosing on everybody else's.
And everybody's so happy because all of the antidepressants.
Exactly.
Yeah. They've also found lead in the water of some of the LA school district water fountains. Recently, they found very high levels of lead, and that's in some of the newest.
Oh, that might be one of the reasons that we have a 45% dropout rate.
Because they're dying instead of leaving?
They're not dying, but if you...
because it affects their brain. Yeah. So I was like, they can't graduate,
Definitely.
So... Yeah.
I forget about sniffing glue, just take a drink from the water fountain.
That's true. Well, that's the last official topic. So what we'll talk about now is the 2008 election.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, because we always like to talk about, we need to finish our discussion from last time on that.
What were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about Obama. Right.
We were talking about Hillary Clinton earlier today and about her brilliant interview on O'Reilly. I thought she was absolutely brilliant.
I only saw the second day. I should go back.
I only saw the first day, and she was good. O'Reilly was very good.
I watched both, and I applaud her for doing it. If she'd done it like 3 months ago, it would be a different conversation probably.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anyone, even though Obama
supporters... Actually, I heard today that Hillary she seems a lot more viable. That Obama's fortunes have been fading because of this whole right thing, and now Hillary's a lot more viable.
That's a travesty. I have actually a conservative, a travesty. I have a conservative friend back in Oklahoma. We were talking the other day, and that came up, and he goes, he was going to vote for Obama. Yeah. And I was shocked. So. Yeah.
Well, I got to wrap it up now.
Okay.
We'll talk about politics next show. I know we say that every time. Thank you for coming on the show. We hope we brought some uncommon sense into your life. As you putter through your day, remember, everybody's wrong but me. See you next time.
Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees. Even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me.